Well, hello and welcome back to Print Island. And here at the top of the lighthouse on a sunny day, I can see for miles from the top of my lighthouse. My name is Richard Askam. I am the lighthouse keeper here on Print Island, and I'm very fortunate to be able to invite to my little part of the island some very special guests. And today is absolutely no different. And a good friend of mine from way back when, and we'll try and work out when in a minute. Henrik, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
Well, it is still before noon here, but good
Good.
morning to you, and thank you for having me on the show.
Absolute pleasure. And I must just ask, what's the art behind you? Is that one of your creations, or is that something that you've shipped in?
It's don't worry, it's shipped in. We are still on the interpretation phase, so we don't quite know what it actually means yet.
Okay. Well, maybe that's the point of art, isn't it? That it means something different to everybody.
Well, it's just like any other things in life, right? If it arises feelings in you, it's art, right?
Yeah, quite exactly that. So good. Well, listen, welcome to the Lighthouse. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. For those of you in the world that have, and I can't believe there is anybody that doesn't know who Henrik is, but take 2 minutes, Henrik, and give us a flyby of who you are, what you do, why you do it, how long you've been doing it, all that kind of stuff. Give us your elevator pitch of Henrik Klem Lassen.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I'm the CEO of Inkish TV, or as we call ourselves, Inkish Group now, because during 2025 we have acquired a couple of companies, and we are going to continue on that path to strengthen our global presence. That means that we have acquired a Mexican company and Print Connect Online. So we are working together with these companies in order to strengthen our position and way of doing things in the market. And we work in the well, what can you say, the post-COVID way, because we have people all over the world now. My filmer is in Ljubljana. We have people in London, and our news desk is in Denver, and we have our Mexicans, the El Revista Impresor, and we have Gene in South Africa. So basically, we have people in a wide part of the world sending us feedback and being able to make our films. And films was the core product of Inkish originally. We started from an idea about why isn't there any films about how to do business in the printing industry? And from there on, we have, now I think we have made about 3,000 films and interviews from the industry. And it is interesting in that way that we get to visit a lot of PSPs. And in that way, we see what are their pains, what is it that they hear, feel, see in their everyday business.
Mm-hmm.
That's also why we have taken the perspective that we are on our viewer's side. So we try to predict what it is that they want to see.
Yeah, and I think that's hugely important in this day and age, because the veil of marketing, shall we call it, that sort of descends upon products, of course, is what people want you to hear, but isn't necessarily what you know to be true. And I think you guys have always done a great job of lifting that veil up a little bit, and having a look underneath to see what the reality is. And you and I met, I remember, at Inkish when it was just really sort of forming, just outside of Copenhagen, on a random industrial estate, and I think you were making the coffee. I can't remember. I know we've just been talking about coffee, but and now you're the CEO and really leading the sort of the commercial side of the business, I guess, with Morten Reitoft as the editor and probably the face, I would say, of Inkish as everybody knows him to be. How did you guys meet? Where did it come? Where does your relationship stem from?
Well, Morten and I actually only live 5 kilometers apart, and so our relation started many years ago when we were in the same political party, in fact. So that's how we started.
Okay.
And then in 2019, Morten said, "Well, I want to make this. I've been doing these videos, and I think that they're quite interesting. They have quite a reach, and people actually want to see it. And then we talked about how could we make this into a global success, and that's what we're still trying to do.
Okay, well, you're doing a brilliant job. And did you come from a printing background then? Is that your world?
No, my background is not printing. I have had several companies before, companies where I've made software systems for the pension industry, employee benefit schemes, and I have also previously worked as an economist and been teaching marketing as well.
So,
So
so your
my
connection really was you're the commercial guy, and Morten is the print and what, the creative guy? Is that how you see yourselves?
Yeah, Morten is also quite commercial as well, but Morten is he has this natural interest and digs very deep into, especially for instance, the technology, and also I think he has a very good gift that he understands the markets, he understands the application, and in that way, I think that we are very good at supplementing each other.
Yeah, and I think that's always a good balance to have in any business. And sometimes when that balance isn't there, it's quite obvious. I think, and you and I have worked together several times in the past. Last year at Drupal, and in the marathon that was Drupal, and I see it, close at hand really, how you guys all work brilliantly together, to bring forward probably the best view of the print industry, that people need to see.
Well, we try to do our best, and again, we try to anticipate what is it that the viewers want to see. So that is what we try to anticipate, and it's no secret that traditional trade press is being consumed less and less by the PSPs, and therefore there is a need to find new ways of communicating with them. Um, you can just imagine in well, 15 years ago, we all read paper newspapers, right? When I was a young or a child, when you were waiting for the bus, you were waiting for the bus, right? And you were, if you were lucky, you had a book or a newspaper, but otherwise you were just staring or talking to people, right? Today, everybody is looking at their phone, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this little device has transformed the way that we do every day. What in our habits? I mean, a lot of people now sleep with their phone on the bedside table, right? And we have this. Well, our patience is becoming less. We want instant access to a lot of things, and we also want to consume whenever we want to consume something.
Mm.
So all these things that we know from media like Flow TV and paper newspapers are more or less history.
Mm. Yeah, no, I agree, and I can sadly remember the days of being bored because there was nothing to do, nothing to see, nothing to read, nothing to hear, and you had to invent your own creativity really to alleviate that boredom. And in many ways, I guess a generation of creative people were born. Several generations of creative people were born. Is there a risk now with the boredom being removed from our young people because of the advent of the smartphone that we'll lose a generation of creatives?
I don't know. I am not so pessimistic about the future for young people. And I have three kids, 8, 17, and 19. So I do see the phone habits as well. But I think that they still have a lot of creativity. It's just different.
Different, yeah,
Consume things in a different way.
yeah.
But I mean, ever since Socrates, right, and youth of today, we've said this about each generation, right? And our parents probably were pulling their hairs and saying, "Oh, youth of today."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Stop watching television, which we've all done now. And go outside and play in the garden, that kind of thing. It seems to, yeah, genuinely. I mean, parents do this, don't they? I'm doing this now with my daughter, who's nearly 18. And we repeat. You can hear your parents' voice coming out of your mouth as you repeat. The mantra is the same. It's just the difference is the technology to a certain extent.
True, and of course also the landscape changes. I mean, the reason why we are looking more into to having footholds in several markets is that of course we see that emerging markets is becoming more and more interesting from a growth perspective. Luckily, the incomes and the consumption is increasing in more and more of the emerging markets, and that's one of the reasons why we think that that's interesting to look at in the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and those habits as well, Henrik, from young people all over the world are almost becoming the growth opportunity to a certain extent for the print industry, particularly print on demand. One of the conversations I had last week here at the top of the Lighthouse was how summer has changed the work load of print suppliers, print on demand suppliers, because people are on holiday, but they're scrolling on their phones. They're seeing things they want. They're buying the things that they want, and they expect them to be delivered. So we've gone from a world where I must remember to order that when I get home to I'll have it now, please. And therefore, then my guest was saying that then normally August is a quiet month in the print industry, and he said he's never been busier. So that's one of the advents, isn't it, of this technological change.
Well, also new ways of, as we talked about in the beginning, the patience, and also new ways of doing business, and new opportunities with the logistics. I was in Beijing in April and May. That was not very well planned, but I was on family visit in April, and at Print China in May. But the fascinating thing about China is that the e-commerce is so developed that you can go online and book something in Beijing, and it's delivered within 2 or 3 hours.
Mm.
And in this case, it was my wife's nieces needed a swimsuit because there was a swimming pool at the hotel, so they just go online, book it, and then it's delivered. Same thing
Yeah.
with a lot of other things. So we have developed, this is perhaps also why our patience is less and less, because we are used to getting what we want whenever we want.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Because you and I sadly are old enough to remember when it used to say something like, "It will be with you in the next 28 days." And then it would arrive after 21 days, and it'd be like, "Yay!" It's here quicker now. And as you've just said, it will be here in the next 28 minutes. And somebody at 26 minutes is going, "Where's my order?" The patience or the impatience has largely been created by the ability or the attempt at the ability of on demand straight away. Even next day now feels a little bit slow in some parts of the world. It's a fascinating change, isn't it, in our society?
Well, it has also been a good business opportunity for online printers, for example. There's several companies that are doing quite well, and delivers very fast, and of course found a way to increase prices via, we all know the question, so do you want to deliver it in 3 days or in 2 days? And it's interesting to see that actually reveals the willingness to pay.
Mm.
So and most people will choose the 2 days, right? And pay
It,
them.
it's quite an interesting human condition, isn't it? Because we are all largely, not all, so largely conditioned that if you want extra legroom on a flight, that costs money. If you want to get through the check-in queue quicker, that costs money. We don't mind paying for things that when we get more of them, whether that's service or product or whatever it is. But the expectation of delivery now, here's my question: has it been driven beyond the point of logistic possibility? Because back in my own days of the Coca-Cola campaign in 2014, we spent or wasted tens of thousands of pounds on call centres with people ringing saying, "Where is my order?" Even though we told them very explicitly that it would take 3 to 5 working days. That were very, very clear instructions. But our anticipation now as consumers has gone off the charts, hasn't it?
Well, but maybe the only difference is that now we don't even get a call center; we get a chatbot, right?
Yeah, well, true. Yeah, that's true. That would have
So
been cheaper.
yeah, so I think that's things have changed in that way. But I think that as we talked about, I mean, some countries have had the advantage that they didn't have to go through all the processes that we had, right?
Mm,
Remember, we had the landlines for the phones, right? There are countries who never had the landlines, right?
true.
Uh, so they are skipping
Yeah.
fast some of these steps.
Straight to mobile. Yeah, no, you're true. I hadn't thought of it that way actually, and I guess that's the leapfrogging, if you like, of advancement in these emerging markets that you're referring to, and they're emerging really quickly as a result of global technology, and everything that comes with that. We'll talk about AI a little bit in a minute because we're contractually obliged these days to talk about AI. But I do wonder, Henrik, standing as we are today on the top of this lighthouse with a beautiful view of the world of print. You have a very direct view of that world with the work that you do with Inkish, and actually quite microscopic in some cases. You really bury into or dig into, I should say, the issues of the day, as it were. What are you seeing? What does the landscape look like? If you look out towards the horizon, what do you see in the print industry in the next 6 to 12 months? There's a lot of headwinds blowing, aren't there? And what's your view? What do you see coming down the line?
Well, I think that basically you're referring a little bit to some tariffs and some changing conditions. Um, there was a large article last week in an Economist about the changing worlds, and I think that one of the things that is evident is that the large traditional economies will mean less and less in the future because the emerging markets is growing quicker.
Mm,
So I think that what's going to happen is that this is, of course, something that will make us think about other markets faster. Uh, I don't think that it's going to. I think of course we'll still do a lot of business with the U.S. and other countries as well. But I think that the emerging markets will become more interesting. I think that the world around U.S. will have more free trade perhaps, and then a little less with the U.S. Um, but I think that this opens up for a lot of business with, as we mentioned before, the emerging markets because they are in need of new technology and
mm,
they have an increasing population. So they have the children that we don't have in Europe and the West, and that's why their economies are one of the reasons why their economies are growing as well. Um, so that's going to open some doors as well. Then, of course, it is still like this that even though we think that the world is becoming smaller and smaller, and with the mobile device, as we talked about before, is in everybody's hand all over the world, it's still a huge difference to how we use it. And we still can't underestimate the language barrier. On English News, for example, we have 13 different languages. And we quickly discovered that in order to be global, you also have to be local in the languages. And that actually came as a bit of a well, we got I got that knowledge because I, for instance, saw a country like Slovakia in Europe. They have 4.5 million people, but they still voice dub films on their national TV. And that shows just how important,
mm,
for example.
mm.
Uh,
Yeah, it's a really good point. And years ago, back in the day when I was doing personalized stuff, I remember meeting the marketing director of Unilever, not the smallest company in the world, and he was very, very clear to your point. There's no such thing as a global customer, just a local customer. So I think globalization, as we've experienced over the last 10, 15, 20 years, has happened to an extent, but it has. But the winners have remembered that it's the locals that will be your customer.
Yeah, well, and I think that also that's an important point to remember, that there's a lot of things that when we talk about the outlook, I mean, there will be a lot of different ways that the printing industry will develop all over the world. I was in February, I was in India, and it's interesting to see that these books from their weddings is one of the key things that they do. In other
Mm.
countries, there's other things that they do. So it's there are different traditions and
Mm.
lots of different opportunities to grow, whether it's commercial print, packaging, or labels.
And people do tend to forget that pretty much everything, not everything, but pretty much everything that we touch on a daily basis has been printed in some shape or form. And the word print is too ubiquitous in my head. I have this argument all the time with people that it doesn't really explain the breadth and scope of the opportunity when you just hear the word print. How do you think that that's going to change with the way? And you talk about the emerging markets, which I think is really important because they're enormous. In their populace. The US, as you mentioned there, is I think something like 4% of the world's population live in the US. So there's 96% that live somewhere else, isn't there? So how do you see them adapting to print as it is rather than print as it used to be?
I think that there's a lot of different segments under this. But if you look at the Southeast Asian markets, yeah, well, just by way of comparison, there's in Southeast Asia, and that's without India, it's more than 700 million people, right?
Mm,
Uh, India is more than 1 billion people, right? So there are a lot of people outside, and for instance, traditional things like school books is something that is widely used and used more and more now as the price tag comes down. Um, I think that you also see a lot of different traditions. We talked about the photo books for the weddings before. In other countries, it's other types of print that they do, or other types of packaging. You also see, for instance, that with increased consumption, you have more and more packaging for food, packaging for other kinds of things, and also with increasing online shopping, you will see an increased demand for different kinds of print as well. You know, when the branding moves to the customer who opens the package.
mm.
We've seen a lot of that with, for instance, some of the something that probably everybody remembers is that when they open their iPhone, that this air compression that you have, or or similar products,
Yeah, the unboxing has become a thing, hasn't it, really?
and that is supported a lot by social media and
Yeah.
as well. So
And this, you mentioned your kids earlier on, and although the youngest, I suspect you're probably keeping as far away from social media as you can, as long as possible. But I guess the world that we live in now, and we talked briefly, didn't we, before we came on about TikTok? But it's a TikTok world, it's an Instagram world, and it's a YouTube world, and we have to fit in with that because our kids are growing up with that as their norm. So there's no point in us as the wise people sitting on the side, Henrik, with all those grey hairs, saying, "Oh no, well that's not the way it's always done." That's the way it's done now, isn't it?
yeah, well, as we also have to adapt to that as well, right?
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the what is it? The Henry Ford faster horses sort of quote from way back in the day, and I guess our every generation has this shift to deal with. And it's happening quicker. I don't even think it's generational anymore. I think it's chopped up bits of the same generation. The Coca-Cola campaign that I was involved in back in 2014 didn't have TikTok. So it could only amplify as far as it could amplify, which at the time felt like everywhere. Now they bring the same campaign back, almost identical campaign, but they've done it to take advantage of the TikTok generation. So they have
Yeah.
a brand new loud hailer, if you like, to shout from. And so that they're adapting to the generational shifts within 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I think that these cycles will become faster and faster, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there's no doubt about that.
So
Uh,
tell me a little bit about Inkish's plans then for that. You mentioned earlier on that you've gone from Inkish TV to Inkish Group. This is sounding like it's turning into the Avengers, the world of the Marvel world of Inkish. What's next on the horizon for you guys?
Well, we still think that print is important, and we come from the digital world with films and online news, and we want to print. But as I mentioned, we think that it's important that that print also adapts to new habits and new expectations. One of the things we've done is we have printed our Inkish Max, which is a magazine printed in a very squared format, and with a very nice front cover, and inside only articles and QR codes for films, and no advertising at all. So something that you would want to keep on your coffee table, something you would want to store in your shelf, because I think that it's important that that we always think about something in hand is important, something online is important. I love there's an American cartoonist called the Marketoonist, and he makes this funny cartoon where he tries to use a little sarcasm and jokes to describe marketing. And one of my favorites is a guy who wakes up in the morning and looks at turns on the radio and hears this radio commercial for a pair of sneakers, and then he drives to work and sees a billboard, and then he comes home from work and gets this brochure with the sneakers, and then he sits in the evening and turns on his TV and sees a TV advertising for the sneakers, and then he takes out his phone and goes online and orders the shoes. And by the company that makes the sneakers, you see them drop all kinds of marketing. They only come from online.
Yeah. Well, and that's there's two things that make me smile in that. One, that the Americans have got sarcasm. Who knew? And secondly, and you'll know this from your past life. What were back in the day? How many touch points? How many marketing touch points were needed to encourage a customer to buy? It was dozens, wasn't it?
The thing is, don't think that has changed.
You don't.
No, I think that there are still lots of possibilities to influence. I mean, even young generations, when they're asked, they say that they think that print has higher credibility than online.
That's really interesting. I did some work with Canon a few years ago, just after COVID, and they did a campaign with the drum to encourage young creatives into the world of using print. And as a result of the campaign, they sent them all their own book of the campaign that they'd created, and they were more impressed by the physicality of the page turning than anything else. So it's never going to get old, is it?
I don't think so. I think that there's always new opportunities, but of course we have to adapt to the time that we live in.
Yeah.
And that's also what we do. We are moving from films and online to trying to do printed products, and we recognize that it's important to be present in many languages as well.
Mm.
So I think that's what you just have to adapt to.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
we see that for the main customers that we have, the OEMs, they are, also what can you say, consolidating. So I think that the media perhaps should consolidate as well.
Yeah.
Uh, and so we think that that's by consolidating we become more interesting as a media partner.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can see that. I can see that. It's in interesting times. You mentioned the amount of travel that you've done this year. What's coming up? We're coming out of summer, so I'm guessing you'll be at an airport somewhere soon. Where are you heading next?
Well, we have the Label Expo coming up in
Hmm.
Barcelona.
Yep.
Then we have Training United, which is a show that we always attend. And yeah, well, then there are a couple of more trade shows. And of course, we have people on the ground all the time to do films from customer sites. We have, done from most parts of the world now. So we're going to continue that in the autumn and in 26 as well.
I had the guys from Printing United with me in the Lighthouse a couple of weeks ago, talking about the evolution of trade shows and the necessity of that evolution. Because you and I have both walked around enough messes over the years to know that there is a necessary evolution to keep pace with the change that we've talked about all the way through this. Well, what if you had a magic wand and you could create the perfect trade show? What would it look like? Where would it be? And what would it try and achieve?
Well, if I had the perfect idea, then I would probably keep it to myself until next.
Fair enough. We'll leave that one over there.
But I think that in general, of course, costs and customer acquisition costs has increased with the number of shows and the decrease in the number of customers. So I think that we do see that there might be too many shows, or they have to be in a different way. We saw after COVID that a lot of companies started to host their own open houses, which is a different way of talking to your customers and show them technology. So I think that that's going to continue as well. I think we will see perhaps a little bit fewer exhibitions. And saying that, it's also funny to see that there are also exhibition organizers who are increasing the number of exhibitions. But it is in a decreasing market because we do see consolidation among the OEMs. So there will be fewer and fewer to exhibit.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? When you've got a trade show sort of commercial world that are trying to take more money off less people. That's my father always used to describe that as an elegant death. You know it's coming, you just don't know when. And so within that time is the time to change, isn't it? It feels more necessary than ever.
Yeah, I think that what we need to, as an industry, also is to think about how do we integrate other parts like brand owners, graphic designers. How do we get them along, right? Because of course there is a threat to the industry in that way, that if we don't have them in and get closer to them, we won't understand what it is that they hear, see, feel, and want, and what their pains are.
I agree, and in fact, I put it to Mark Subers at Printing United that one of the most successful shows in the US certainly is the Consumer Electronics Show. Is there a space here for a consumer print show? Would we benefit the industry by letting the actual end users see what the print industry is capable of, rather than just each other?
Well, we do see a show like Hunkler, for example. We covered that a few times, and it's interesting. You see running equipment, end-to-end solutions. We even did a daily magazine at Hunkler, so that was an interesting thing to see.
But were the visitors there print industry people, or were they actual people on the street, consumers?
They were print industry people, and that's of course one of the tricky things is that we don't have we don't have the brand owners, we don't have the graphic art designers, we don't have the ordinary consumer, and so we don't know what they hear, see, feel. That is a challenge, and that is something that we should improve. And what we could do is, for instance, try to take them into the shows in that way. For instance, you saw at Drupal, you had different islands. Why not have a graphic designer island? And also be more active with the schools, so that they understand what it is. The future marketing managers, so that they can see the difference between different kinds of paper, different kinds of print, what it does to their branding and marketing. That would be,
yeah,
I think,
no,
work more on.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you for mentioning islands. Beautiful segue. Thank you for joining me on Print Island today, Henrik. It's lovely to see you as always. One last question, because you're a well-travelled man. Where's your favourite airport?
Oh, I don't have a particular favorite airport, to be honest. But so I wouldn't be able to mention
I
one.
thought you were going to say Copenhagen, because then you know you're home.
Yeah, but that's usually where I sit with my do my own social media photos, showing with a cup of coffee and a protein salad on the way So
exactly. Keeping you alive for another day. That coffee and protein is all we need.
yes, that's true.
Yeah, brilliant. Listen, thank you for taking the time for joining me in the Lighthouse today. Henrik Klem Lassen from Inkish. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for joining me and watching Print Island today. And I hope you enjoyed the Lighthouse.